Well, hello and welcome to the Windsor Community Church Wednesday blog. Today's April the 28th, 2020. And just to remind you folk in the United States that we are in Invercargill, New Zealand. That's if you're watching, of course. And my guest today is Carolyn Loo, and she's known to many people at Windsor Church from previous associations. And so Carolyn, first of all, welcome very much. Thank you,
Peter,
for accepting my invitation. So can you tell me what you do?
At the moment, I am the Director of the Loss and Grief Centre Services for Southland. So that sees me managing anything that relates to loss and grief that comes through the door at the centre. It's quite a widespread. We work with all ages, all cultures and all losses. We do one-on-one work as well as group work, community work, rest home work, all sorts of different things. So my job is to oversee the entire team as well as deliver face-to-face services.
Yeah. And I have to say that you're really highly regarded with your work, and so it's a real pleasure to have you on. Okay, you've talked about dealing with all kinds of loss, and we are now into week 5 of the COVID-19 lockdown. And in our pastoral ministry, with the staff ringing around our folk, keeping in contact, we've noticed quite a shift in people's demeanour, I suppose, attitude, feelings, emotions from week 1 where, oh yeah, we'll get through this, to now the telephone conversations are lasting a lot longer. So from your perspective, can you talk about the kind of feelings that are now beginning, because we've still got 2 weeks to go minimum, so have you an idea of what's actually going on in people?
Yeah, I think like initially people went, yes, we can do this, we're going to save lives, and they were really positive and had this inner strength within them that got them through the first week or so. Then the actual depth of the loss starts impacting, and it's cumulative. Any loss is cumulative. So people often think loss is about death, but it's not just about that. And for us, there's been a loss of freedom, a loss of connection to other individuals, a loss of confidence in the world, a loss of routines, a loss of all the things that we would have normally planned, like holidays overseas or trips to see whānau. And so that's like a giant snowball that's gathering momentum inside of people. And as much as, yes, we've done 5 weeks great, we still have 2 or more. And it's always the last part of any race, I think. That is the hardest, to be confident, keep your pace and keep your energy levels up. So this is a really normal reality for people. They're carrying more and more each day, and it's becoming more and more evident that they are missing the things that give us all of the security that we're used to.
Yeah. So can you pick the kind of emotions and feelings that people are having at this time?
Oh, look, it's the whole broad spectrum. Some people are really angry with the government for doing this to us, really angry at the world for this occurring, need to blame something because the emotions are quite high. Other people are really anxious, really worried about what the future might look like, and even if we get to level 2 and level 1, will it be safe to go out? And their mind is working overtime. Other people are just really, really lonely and have a deep sense of isolation and feeling excluded because they can't connect. Look, it's the whole broad spectrum, but at the end of the day, they're feelings that we actually are allowed to feel and that we need to own and work through, because they reflect what we're living in and the current uncertainty for us and the world.
Yeah, like I've confessed to my church that I've had periods of rebellious thinking deep from within.
Sounds
going outside my bubble and going fishing and stuff. So, I've come quite clean. Not that it's made me feel any better, because it's kind of that real angst Yeah,
Yes.
and you know, the loss of freedom and the loneliness for a lot, we um, are really picking up. Have you?
I don't, Peter, I don't think it's a bad thing that people are taking more time on the phone now. I think it's a really healthy thing.
Yeah,
I
I
think it shows that, you know, in those first few weeks, because we're doing the same type of service for the centre, those first few weeks it was a touchstone, it was chirpy, you said everything's good. And now they're starting, because your service is there and you're reaching out weekly, they have a space to share and to work through some of what they're actually experiencing, which is confusing because none of us have been here before, so none of us really know how to do this stuff. So I think the length of the phone calls is actually a real positive. It shows that they're getting some ministry and some healing in those times.
Yeah, yeah, we would agree. Yeah, but yeah, it's just I think for us understanding why, and you've given a good explanation. What this is? Have you ever experienced a mass grieving, the whole gambit like this before?
No,
That was a
no,
silly
this
question.
is, yeah, no. I think I've seen communities grieve for the loss of someone significant in their world, in their community. But this is so global and so just, it's crazy. Like everybody is living a form of loss and grief, but nobody's is the same. And the impact on each individual is so unique and so different. So there is no baseline except that everybody's experiencing some form of loss and grief. So no, I've never seen it like this. I'm not sure, unless we end up in another pandemic in the future, that we'll ever see, hopefully in our lifetimes, anything of this significance again. It does make it quite difficult, though, to know how to plan to respond to people as we continue moving through the levels, because we don't actually know what's coming, any of us.
No.
And that's really uncomfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, there's one particular issue that we've dealt with a little bit. That is the very stringent conditions placed on people in hospital and the inability of close, very spouses being able to visit, or funerals until level 4, no one could go. So. You got any comments? Because that's some really deep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We the grief that we feel over a loss is the internal emotions that we experience. The way we manage them and deal with them is that we mourn outwardly. We do tangible things that start working through our inner feelings, and a funeral is one of the first really big acts that we do in an outward sense of mourning. So having that removed from people's lives means that they need to be more creative. They're going to have to find other ways to do that because it still sits within you. It just doesn't go away. It needs tangible, deliberate expression. And so for some of the people that are going through things at the moment, the Funeral Directors Association has put out a list of suggestions on ways on their website that you can do the beginning steps of how to mourn. It's real things like, light a candle, set up your memorial table, do a piece of artwork now that you might use later at a memorial service. Plan what your memorial service might be, because we need that structure. It's like the key that opens the door, and it's a key that's really important.
Yeah.
So it is about being individual but deliberate. This stuff needs to be planned for.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah, and that'll mean that memorial services are going to be extra important.
Absolutely, and I think people shouldn't rush to do those. They need to take time to make sure that the memorial service reflects what they really want it to look like.
Yeah.
Because it is a really big event, not just for them and their close whānau, but also for the extended community of that person that has had no way. They may have sent a card, but they've had no other way to connect to the whānau. So it is about taking time. It's about being creative. I know some people have done little online Zooms or FaceTime, memorial connections. It is going to be really significant, and there's going to be, I think it has to be really well planned, and you're going to be busy, Peter, basically. And time needs to be allocated for that, because if we do that part well and we start helping people to unlock the door, then we'll have better people at the other end who've started the process really well.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too. It's it's not a funeral service, because you're dealing with an extra layers, or it's interesting. So have you got any advice, or I'll say advice, or any pointers for people like who are feeling really angry at the moment, or anxious? I know there are topics each one, but
I think it comes down to not letting our brain get too far ahead of itself. And we're great for looking ahead and making plans and seeing the worst case scenarios. That's what keeps us safe in life, isn't it? We respond to those threats. So what I encourage people to do is to come back to today and live today. However that looks for you, break it into bite-sized chunks, manage it, plan the morning, plan lunch, plan the afternoon, plan something positive in every single day. Now, that might be really challenging when you're on your own, but there's always something positive. If you look outside, you can find it, but you've got to plan it and be deliberate. I think encouraging people to ground themselves and to breathe and to use positive words rather than seeing everything in a negative light, that glass half full rather than glass half empty approach. Because that's, if we don't do that, then our anxiety and our worries take over. Then we get to that stage where we're making all the plans ourselves and we're not trusting God to order our steps, where we're running ahead, trying to make this work for the human in us rather than trusting God that He will lead us to that point when we're still and quiet enough to get that confidence. So, get in the garden, go for a walk. If you can't do those things, ring your neighbours, connect, reach out. But remind yourself that even every runner who's in a marathon, I'm sure will tell you that the last part of the race is the hardest. And it's the bit that we want to give up in because we're tired and we're sore and really can we be bothered, and maybe I should just sneak out and go fishing, I don't know. And so we need to keep pushing through that and go, no, look how far we've come, not how much further do I have to go.
Yeah. Good advice. What would you say to people who are contacting, like our pastoral workers, myself? What are the kind of things that we need to be saying and listening for?
I think you need to, and I'm doing the same thing, and it's always for me, I'm like, right, I need to really think about what this person's last time to me, and I need to be really engaged about talking about other things, not just lockdown. Need to find out, you talked about there was a fan tail in the tree last week. Have you seen that again? Or where have you taken your dog for a walk this week? If someone keeps repeatedly saying, I don't know if I can go on, I'm not sure how I can do this, we have a responsibility to explore that a little bit more and ask them what that means and give them a chance to share that so that it gets out of being all messy and crazy inside of us to being spoken. Then it loses some of its power as soon as that occurs. So being quite planned before you ring, I think is important. Also making sure that between calls you take some time for yourself and do some well-being stuff, because they're exhausting, aren't they? You've got to use every single skill that you have to be really present and to attend and to be connected, because you're losing all those other cues that we would normally use when we communicate with people, all that non-verbal stuff and the body postures. We don't have that. So we need to take care of ourselves afterwards and to just ground ourselves, breathe, get up, go get a drink, go and look at the flowers in your own garden, take some time out before you then go and bring someone else.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all of the people who are doing all the helping now are going to be burnt out when it comes time to level 2 and level 1. We're not going to have any energy for anybody when we're all out in the world again.
Yeah.
You know?
That's our experience. It is really draining, hard graft. But
yeah, so draining that I'm studying this year to be a counsellor, and I've decided to do one of my assignments on what it's like to do telecounselling during lockdown.
Right.
Because it's so exhausting, and you think it's only been 30 minutes on the phone, but it's not just that.
No.
Not when you're investing all of yourself into that 30 minutes for that individual.
That's really good. Yeah, the advice on the self-care when you, and it's not only for people in ministry, but if you're ringing your neighbour, if you're a member of a church, you're ringing people, it's good advice for them as well. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. God doesn't expect us to be all things to all people all of the time.
That's true. Yeah.
You know, and sometimes other people expect that of us, but God doesn't. And you know, He doesn't want us to burn out in this.
That's right. Well, we've covered a little bit, and I'd like to thank you for that. Is there anything else, a final thing you would like to say to people in lockdown?
Look how far we've come. Look how much you've achieved. I think if we reframe it from what's being done to us, and we think about the story of the Good Samaritan, and if we put ourselves into that story and think of ourselves as modern day Good Samaritans, that today we have an opportunity to save someone's life by staying home and by following the rules and by hanging in there and doing what we know is what we're being directed to do. And when will I ever get a chance to say that I'm a modern day Good Samaritan?
Yeah, true.
Who knows? But at the moment, we all have that opportunity to be that for someone else that we may never ever meet in our life. What a blessing that is to be in that place. A challenge and all of those other things too. But hang in there, modern day Good Samaritans. We can do this. God's on our side.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Well, I think we'll sign off there, and I so much appreciate what you've shared with us, and I've actually found it helpful. Because I always want to learn, and it's this is so unprecedented, and I just see I've got a halo on my head now.
Look at that! I've been watching that. I was like, oh, look at that!
Yeah, that's Shekinah glory for those of you who are interested. But anyway, it's because it's so unprecedented. It's just everyone in ministry, it's stretched there. You don't get taught this in theological college.
No.
So thank you very much. I really, really appreciate your participation, and God bless, and we wish you all the best in the future.
Thanks, Peter. You too. Thanks for having me.